Hey guys, you may be wondering why you're hearing my voice before you hear music today, and that's because already on episode 3, I have to correct some things. Uh, so, first of all, we've gotten a little bit of feedback about my microphone being quiet when I first start talking, and that's going to happen again this episode. We're trying to figure that out. I think it's just some software issue. The second thing is that I was very not feeling good on this episode, and you may be able to tell by my voice that I'm still not feeling great. But my brain was gone, and I think I said some goofy things. And at one point, it kind of sounded like I was saying that if you stay home from church when you're sick, you're forsaking the gathering. I think I clarified it later after that, but that's definitely not what I think. If you're sick, stay home from church. But all that to say, I think this episode is going to be kind of a little bit more of a lull from my side. Tyler really carried me through it. Hopefully, next episode, I will be back to full health. But I appreciate you guys listening, and we will be back 2 Tuesdays from now for our next episode. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to episode number 3 of Over Theologizing. I'm Joe.
And I'm Tyler, and today we're talking about technology and asceticism.
Hey, Tyler.
What's going on? My friend Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm, we both are starting off this podcast and the last podcast, and we're both just gloomy and just like, oh man, there's some evidence of the fall going around up by me, some sickness. So I'm dealing
Oh,
with a little
no.
bit of that. We're making it though. We're making it. How about yourself?
Well, yeah, I definitely, we have some of that, going into the winter season allergy bump that always seems to get me. So I don't know what in the world might be blooming, but I definitely feel it. Other than that, I'm kind of where you were during our last recording, where I'm getting ready for my own little vacation. Taking the family camping. We're going to visit a state park in Georgia, and really looking forward to that.
That's awesome. And double entendre definitely intended when I said evidence of the fall, because autumn and also the fall of mankind.
Oh, boo!
It is too easy. But
Oh
yeah,
man, I should have
we
caught
just
that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I just slid it in there, but yeah, we just got back from our vacation. It was
Yeah, how
much
was your
needed.
trip?
Oh man, fantastic. It was our first time going to Florida. Uh, you know, 10-year anniversary, and couldn't have had a better time. We plan to go back next year, same spot and everything for our 11th anniversary, and I don't know, maybe we'll make a tradition out of it.
Yeah, well, and if everything could go according to the way I want it to, we would totally hang out for that. At least part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the listener doesn't know, but we were only what, like an hour apart?
Something like
And
somewhere around
and
there, an hour and a half, maybe.
yeah, and somehow we still didn't manage to see each other. But
Well, life is busy at the stage where I'm in, and you guys are on vacation. You're there to relax, not to drive around to come see me.
that was what I was looking forward to though. Come on.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe this next year we can plan something a little more in advance.
yeah. I am poor at that, which the listener will probably already know just in the first 2 episodes, but I don't plan anything in advance. I just kind of go for it, and my wife suffers for it, I guess. But yeah, man, vacations, uh, just another like evidence of God's grace, if I can over theologize for a second.
Hey,
And it's just I don't know, man. It's just a awesome thing. I'm not gonna go as far as to say as I would say with the Lord's Day that it's a slice of heaven, but it's definitely God's grace that He would give us these opportunities to wind down, have a break from our duties in life. And because of the fall, those duties are just that, they're duties, and they're not completely enjoyable all the time. You get a little bit tired working nonstop. So hopefully you and your family have a good time out there, get some much needed rest.
Oh yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. It's a little bit of a family tradition um, that we haven't been able to keep up with quite as well as we'd like. Um, my wife's family, we used to go camping every single year, like around Veterans Day, and then once you start adding kids into the mix, it complicates things. Time wise, finances wise. So we haven't made it happen every single year. Um, but we're trying to get back into it because it's always such a fun time to just get out and enjoy nature. And it's funny, as a Florida native, I'm not much of a beach guy, um, and so instead I get to get out in the woods this weekend and enjoy that part.
That seems to be a common thing for Florida natives. No?
Um, Man, it really depends. You got some people that just absolutely love the beach around here. Um, and then I've met other people that are just I'm over it. I'd
Yeah.
rather see something different, because we
Yeah.
have, we don't have any beach super close to where I live. But it's not terribly far away. It
Yeah.
would not be hard to get to.
You're closer than I am. I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
by at least a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I went to a little church uh, on vacation, a little PCA church in, I guess it was still Panama City. And it just seemed like the people there, when I was talking to them, they had no interest in the beach whatsoever. So I don't know if that's like a common thing for Floridians, if they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd imagine, especially for the people that live closer, it's just such an everyday existence. Like I've said this before, like for me, going to the mountains and stuff is such novelty because I don't see that every day. But for the people that live in like Tennessee and North Carolina, a lot of those real mountainous areas, that are relatively close, they walk out their back door and they just kind of take it for granted because it's there every day. And it's not got, it hasn't retained its like special nature. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh man, this is great. you know,
Yeah, I
so
mean, I guess that's kind of another product of the fall, really, that I haven't thought about before is like just not appreciating the beauty of God's creation around you.
mm,
Just taking for granted like I send Tyler pictures of the or the sunrise all the time. I send a bunch of our friends pictures of the sunrise all the time. And that's just really I'm not trying to say I'm great at this, but that's really me trying to actively appreciate the beauty that God puts around us. But that's just it. You kind of actively have to, intentionally try to notice it. Otherwise, you just go day by day, kind of mundanely letting it
yeah,
pass by.
it's so easy, especially, yeah, because you get so caught into, your drive to work or, wherever you're going, you don't even consider what a miracle creation is.
Yeah.
Like my pastor will kind of hammer this home every so often, just this idea of like his go-to is thank you God for taste buds. And as a big food fan, amen. But really it's all of our senses. God made creation just so beautiful everywhere you look. Everything is so intricate that how people arrive at that being chance, I just can't wrap my head around. And so, when you see that beautiful sunset, or you hear the breeze rustle through the leaves, or, all these things, snow, rain, whatever, it's easy, I think, for us to look at that and say, like, for a snowy driveway, oh, that's something I have to shovel. But without considering like how neat that may be. Or like around here, having a lot of leaves and pine straw to rake up, out of the driveway, or just your yard to keep it looking okay. But yeah, no, there's beauty there. Um, and I'm certainly guilty of not appreciating it in the moment. But yeah, there's creation is so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, and yeah, just a vast variety too. I mean, you talk about different um like mountains and beaches and all these different geographic locations, but even like I got to southern Georgia, I guess it was, and the trees are just so different down there. That was the first thing I noticed. Is like you can just see straight through hundreds of trees, and where I'm at,
Yeah.
the woods, it's just this dense green,
Mhm.
which is beautiful this time of year. Speaking of the fall, I mean, uh, this time of year, it's just stunning around here. You get all kinds of different colors, and it is gorgeous. But it's I don't know. I guess like we're kind of talking about seeing something different, you notice it a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, my experience around fall is pretty different. For the most part, like right around where I live, it stays green until it's just suddenly brown and dead. So actually, when my wife and I got married and we're on our honeymoon, we were driving. We actually stayed in North Carolina for our honeymoon, and it was the craziest thing because we're driving along and it was just like, man, did we plan this just a little bit too early? Because the whole drive up, it's just green, 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 and it was like a switch got flipped. It's like all of a sudden just orange and yellow and brown and just all these different colors. And it was like, oh, okay. Like we'd driven through like this patch of fog basically on our way kind of up through the mountains, and then like, yeah, just opened up into this beautiful colorscape.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of stuff that I really just love and appreciate, probably the most when it comes to like seasons changing. Is just that little bit of time before the winter, right when everything starts just changing color, and man, just to see the variety and all the different plants. Again, creation is just so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and really what we're talking about is maybe a minor form, but it is discontentment, you know, kind of refusing to see the beauty around you. And that's something that as Christians, um I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, you could tell me, but I think we should weed out even those little tiny forms of discontentment. Like, we were talking about vacations, and yeah, vacations are great, but we should also take joy in our work. And work can be stressful sometimes. We deal with sinful people at work and sinful bosses and sinful coworkers that do us wrong and all this other stuff that isn't fun. We're, maybe sometimes overworked, but I think if you're the kind of guy that everybody knows is a Christian, and also the kind of guy that is always complaining to your coworkers, uh, yeah, and this is another. Uh, I don't know why you're clapping. I'm talking about me because,
I'm still very proud of that line, by the
yeah,
way.
that was a good one. It was so good that I still remember it. uh, yeah, it's another one of those. I mean, I'm literally talking about myself and something that I'm trying to work on, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things to be appreciative for. The obvious one being the gospel. That's that's a lot
Mm.
to be appreciative for.
Oh
But
yeah.
all the grace on top of that God has for all of creation, even non-elect people the grace that he has for everyone in things like the beauty of nature and even things we can't see, the beauty of how our bodies work uh,
Right.
is just fascinating, and we kind of take it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself consider, especially having younger children, just the resiliency of the human body
Yeah,
is kind of an incredible thing.
yeah,
My youngest is he's going through that stage where um nothing is safe and nothing is sacred. Everything is fair game to jump off of.
yeah.
Um, like he, my wife had to take him to like a follow up for he broke and managed to break his collarbone, and so she took him to the doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, everything's looking good, and everything's healing up, just a couple more weeks, and it should be fully healed. And she was like, yeah, I mean, if I can get him to stop trying to WWE off the couch and stuff. And so she was like, not that we let him, just he does it anyway.
Yeah,
um, but like he'll get hurt and then immediately jump back into something else. And you're like, did you not learn your lesson yet?
yeah.
You're
But
going to hurt yourself more.
yeah, but you remember being a kid, you know.
Oh, not as well as I hope. I mean, oh man, I remember just I could not wait to be an adult, and now that I'm an adult, I'm like, man, if only I could be a kid again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My youngest is not yet at the stage where he's willing to jump off of things, but he is very willing to climb any and everything. We had these totes sitting in our living room. They're like I don't know, they're probably like foot and a half tall, and we had three of them stacked up, and he managed to climb on top of all three, and he was just standing up there, just hanging out. I'm like, man, you fall off that, it's not gonna be great. But yeah, injuries happen.
They do, and but I mean, kids especially, it must be just part of their developmental stages or something. I don't know. The fact that they can bounce back so quickly from things where they just don't even pay attention to. Where me, like if I sleep wrong, I wake up and I'm like, I can't walk right now,
Yeah.
or whatever. And they're just like, I had 2 hours of sleep. Wow.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I truly think that obviously everything God does, he does on purpose, but I truly think that he designed it that way because he knows for a fact that, especially as we see, our young boys are very willing to get injured.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's the one thing that I'm like nervous about on this camping trip is this will be his first camping trip, I believe.
Mm,
And
he's gonna
oh
love it.
man. Oh, he's gonna have a blast.
Yeah.
Everyone
Maybe
else
too
is gonna
much
be
of a blast,
very
though.
tired afterward, though, having to chase him around. Hey,
Yeah.
don't put that in the fire, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, oh man. Well, so let me ask you this. Let me kind of pose this to you. So we've been talking about a lot of creation and nature and all this. I'm trying to think of how best to broach this topic. Um, how does our modern day technology kind of fit into that?
Mm,
Um, a lot of times we use it as an escape, I think, to get away from nature.
yeah.
Um, and in some ways, it's hugely helpful. I love the fact that we have heaters and air conditioning. Um, that we have various ways to consume media so as to appreciate the beauty of artistic vision and music and that sort of thing. But obviously, like anything, there's hindrances there as well. Um, so can you speak into that a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, tech is such a wide category, and I think there's many ways where technology m- kind of mitigates the effects of the fall, like medicine, modern medicine. I would categorize under technology,
Oh,
and
for sure.
yeah, there's a whole lot of sickness that has been prevented, or even kind of uh, eliminated through that technology. And I think any Christian would say that's a good thing. Uh, Obviously, there's a lot of ways where technology goes too far, and it almost becomes like a little g god for people, and they trust more in technology and our ability through physical means to do some of these things than they do God to do his job. Um, and then there's also like simple little things. What technology can you use on the Lord's Day if you're a Sabbatarian? Um, I mean, there's just so many things to talk about. Uh, I think I am very thankful for the time that I was born. Um, like this podcast doesn't exist without technology. And I think it's a wonderful thing. There's so many great ways that God uses technology 100% to um, reach a lot of people. And it's not like he couldn't without technology, but it's a means that he's chosen to use. I know, there's a young couple in my church right now that started coming several months ago now, and uh, he was saved through watching these YouTube videos that he got recommended of a someone that would just went through the Bible, and that's incredible. I mean, that's awesome. Um, but obviously, there's some dangers that come with that as well.
Oh man, don't I know that? I mean, the amount of people that I've known that have been like, "Oh man, looking through YouTube and find this pastor," and then you look them up and you're like, "Oh wow," you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
um,
Maybe
but
just listen to your pastor.
right, well, and so that's I mean that's been a huge thing too. Is like our church does not stream our service at all.
Hmm.
We don't have like we post recordings in the form of like a church podcast basically,
Hmm.
where the sermons will get shared as well as any sort of like Bible study materials, that sort of thing. But we don't stream our service because the intent is that you would be there at service.
Yeah.
You don't have that excuse, and I know a lot of people that'll wake up Sunday morning and just like, yeah, we're just gonna watch service from home today. And I'm like, man, you're robbing yourself of so many of the other blessings the church has to offer,
Hmm.
and ways that you could bless the church more so than just there's so much more to church than just the sermon. The sermon is good. You should definitely hear the sermon. The sermon is a good friend of mine, Tony, has said, that's God preaching, just like through the preacher. If he's adequately and appropriately preaching the word of God, then that's God's word going out. That's good. Um, but like that's not the sole reason why the church is together, and I think a lot of people kind of miss that. And some of that I would say is probably kind of on the head of technology.
Oh
um
yeah, definitely.
but even still, I guess really not solely. At the end of the day, you and I are culpable for what we did with that technology.
Yeah.
Whether the technology exists or not, what we do with it is what's important.
Yeah, and uh, you know, like my church, the leadership team decided to stream for people that are sick or can't make it or whatever for whatever reason, and I respect both decisions, to be clear. But
Mhm.
I think I think their mindset was we're not going to change our game plan for people that abuse the system. which again, I'm not showing my cards of what I think of it here. I think both sides of the argument have completely valid reasons. And if you are consuming church on a TV screen, you're not, you're forsaking the gathering. The
Right.
gathering, and that's one of these things with technology that where it kind of becomes a god for people, is that it kind of blends with reality. With when technology replaces gathering with the saints, you've gone too far.
Mm,
And yeah, like you said, the sermon, I would argue, even if you're listening on a TV screen, you're not actually um uh you're not actually participating in the sermon. There's no accountability for you there when you're sitting watching on a TV screen rather than physically there. And maybe after church you go and talk to the pastor, and maybe not right then, but you get what I'm saying. If you never go to church, there's zero accountability. You're not even
right.
participating in that. You're just kind of listening along, and it's more of a pep talk than an actual sermon.
Yeah. And to be clear, I want to just go ahead and make sure that I'm crystal clear on this point. I'm 100% with Joe on this. I think both both sides of that argument can be commendable, and I think for the people that you know have to be at home because they're sick and don't want to spread something to the rest of the church, because that's not particularly loving. um, that's always a good thing, that they might still be able to even get some of that on that Sunday that they weren't able to get to church. um but yeah, if you're abusing it, like, I'm sorry, you need to repent. you
Well, and I
know
think that's important too for the pastor to be clear about, which my pastor is, to be clear about, is that even if you are sick and you're consuming the content on the TV, you're not participating in church.
right.
You're not, you are forsaking the gathering. But I think there's a lot of other ways where people don't really recognize it, but certain things to do with technology kind of become a church like ritual for them. And whether that's blatantly sinful, we talk about all the ways God uses technology. Well, the enemy uses technology a lot too. The obvious one being pornography or sexual content on the internet, a lot on uh, even social media websites these days. And even I would say, we both play video games, Tyler, but even I would say, there's a lot of people that video games become more of church for people than church does.
Ooh, spicy.
Well,
Yeah, no,
and
I agree. And to be completely honest, to you and any other listeners, I mean, I can be the world's worst at that at times, where I, I could very easily stay up way too late playing video games and then suffer for that the next day. Um, and for me, a lot of times, I justify it because, well, I'm playing with, my sister and my brother-in-law. That's something that we have in common and we love to do together. And so it's like it's my way of spending time with them when we don't really get to see each other much during the week or anything. So, you know, it very quickly can become that, lame excuse for spending way too much time in front of my screen. Um, and I try not to let it completely interrupt time with family, but priorities aren't always in perfect alignment there.
yeah, yeah, and we talked about people abusing the system as far as online quote unquote worship services go, but we all abuse technology in one way or another, whether
Mm,
we know it or not. Whether it's just go on your analytics on your phone and see how much screen time you have, and it's probably it's probably pretty high because I think the average is like 6 hours or something a day, which is nuts.
And I
That's
know that it ain't in that Bible app.
no, maybe like a tenth of that, if that.
So you might be doing good if it's a tenth of
Yeah,
that.
probably. Yeah, but
Yeah, it's very easily abused.
yeah, and that's our nature. Not to excuse it, but there are redeeming factors of even uh, obviously if it's not blatantly sinful like some of the things we talked about before, but there are redeeming factors of using these things that can be abused. You know,
Mm,
like the obvious one we just mentioned was you're sick, you don't want to go to church and get people sick, you watch on the TV, you know. That's there's something redeeming about that. You're at least hearing your specific pastor's sermon that God is speaking through him. There is something to that, even if you're not participating in the service. But even for recreational things like video games, I think there's definitely something redeeming. And uh, I was going to say a weird made up word, but not sinful about it if you don't abuse it.
right.
I think our parents' generation probably has a little bit different view, at least some of them on that. I don't know how your parents were, but at least some parents I knew were very anti any video games at all. And
Yeah, I grew up in a house where we didn't have any video game consoles. Um and honestly, like the only times that I really got to was if I went over to my friend's house. And even then it was kind of like, hey, you're not supposed to be playing those video games, you know.
yeah,
So I'd find myself in trouble. We were allowed like half an hour of computer time a day or whatever, and that was usually it was typically some sort of at least semi educational game. Um, but yeah, I kind of come from this like view, and I was actually just talking with my friend today about it. You know, this idea of like how it can affect our children's development, to constantly be fed, especially, I mean, shoot, the video games of today are so just feed the dopamine addiction now as much as you can.
yeah,
Whereas like I at least remember like video games from when I was a kid were a lot more involved. You know, mentally there was all this, you know, no hand holding or anything. You had to go in and you had to figure it out yourself. There was no such thing as a tutorial.
yeah,
um but you know, nowadays, like, and it's funny because me and you have even had conversations complaining about it, like the direction of a lot of these video games is to go away from maybe their legacy art style to go into something that's just like bright flashy colors, you know, in your face. It's you know, one of the big examples that always comes up is Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty, and it's just like it's all this goofy crazy stuff, and instead of just the video game existing on its own merit. um but even still, all of that still goes away when you consider the fact that, like, for those friends of mine that constantly grew up in front of a screen, um they struggle with dopamine issues today,
yeah,
where it's so hard to stay focused on a task because if I'm not getting constant dopamine hits from this, it's affecting my ability to stay focused.
yeah. And I'm not gonna say that we should all live like a homestead lifestyle, which I don't know. I'm not against that, to be honest. It sounds kind of cool to me, but
Hey,
who
I'm down for it. Let's go.
yeah. Who can afford that and who yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, but
A homestead with
um
Wi-Fi.
yeah, yeah, and heaters
And
as well.
heaters.
Yeah, AC.
Running water.
Yes, yes. So but you know, I'm not saying that everybody has to do that. But I will say, maybe our parents' generation had some, even though we thought they were crazy. You were just saying that they only allowed you 30 minutes of computer time. Well, your kids are going to think that's absolutely nuts. How could you
Right.
live and only have 30 minutes on a computer a day? Uh, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that because everybody seems to want these days to go back to a simpler lifestyle. And truly, I think, you know, with technology, even though there are good things that come out of it, there is a lot, so much more that distracts us from. I mean, last episode, we were just talking about with Pete how many resources we have and how few times we take advantage of it. We
Right.
have, with this technology comes so much ease of access for a wealth of information that we could never fully consume, and we just barely take advantage of it. And it's because our sinful nature, we would rather go towards the distraction than the thing that's good for us. So with technology, that does come easier. The distraction comes way easier as well. But that is there without technology as well. It's just that, like I said, it's a lot easier with technology.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, there is such a wealth of knowledge available. And that's something that I use just in everyday life. I mean, I work in the computer space. I work, I joke around with people that like if you want to get into IT work, you just got to learn how to use Google well and learn how to search things.
Yeah.
Because like that's half my problems most of the time are just like, how do I put this into Google so that I can find the right answer instead of one of millions of other answers that
Yeah.
don't actually apply here. Um, but I mean, you want to learn anything. If you want to learn how to do leather work, it's a YouTube video away. You want to learn how to fix your car? Well, guess what? There's a YouTube channel for that too. You want to learn, heck, how to study the Bible, how to learn a different language, how to, whatever it is. There's there's all this out there, and yet if you really look at like, I want to say like there was a crazy estimate, and I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but like what is the majority of websites out there? I want to say like 90% of the internet is made up of pornography. And like I said, don't fact check me on the that number may not be 100%
No,
accurate,
it's for
but
sure high.
it's got to be crazy high. And it's really just because people want it's the law of supply and demand. People want a quick fix of whatever their addiction is. And so people cater to that. There is some service out there that will cater to exactly what you want, um, for good or bad or otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that comes, like I think Amazon has done lots of good for the world, but also probably lots of bad and created lots of not great habits for people. And, another thing I was wondering, I've kind of wondered about this for a while is, uh, not to be too puritanical, but how much technology is appropriate for the Lord's Day? Is it okay to play video games on the Lord's Day? And this is going to depend on uh, how Sabbatarian you are, I guess.
Yeah.
But should you? Obviously, we all drive cars to church for the most part. I'm sure some people bike or walk or whatever, but that's technology you have to use. I would say that's for a good purpose. Um, but then there's the recreational side of things. What level of technology is okay on the Lord's Day?
I for one really hope that some of our listeners would maybe take to our uh, I guess I can't say Twitter anymore because it's not Twitter, but we have an X account, as well as just hit us up on Telegram. Would love to hear thoughts on that. What do you feel is the most appropriate amount of technology maybe to use? I for one, I mean, heck, I'm sometimes too much so, but I'm basically glued to my phone, like probably 90% of Americans. Um, and a lot of times it is easier, especially with juggling the kids, to just bring that and use the Bible app on my phone instead of using a physical Bible. Though obviously that's far less distracting. I don't get notifications in my Bible. um, but
You only get
how
those at
much is too much is
charismatic
really the question.
churches.
Sorry, say that again.
You only get notifications in your Bible at charismatic churches. That's the only time those pop up. That was a stupid joke.
Oh no, I
You
love
should
it.
have just let that one go.
No, I love it. I love it. Um, man. So I guess to kind of redeem the time of like you know please nobody misunderstand, like we're not going to be the ones to say technology bad, obviously. We're coming into your ears somehow. um but so like what are some of your favorite uses of technology, Joe, um that you would say are kind of a redemption of that, a good use of that you kind of put to use, maybe regularly in your daily life?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is I use Logos for almost all of my Bible reading, the Logos Bible app. And there's tons of really good software in there that has been coded by someone that is very good with technology, and it's amazing. I mean, that has been uh truly a blessing in my life. And we're not affiliated with Logos. Maybe one day hit us up.
So
But
yet.
yeah, yeah. Uh but that's truly been a blessing in my life. And you you don't get like instant English to Greek, Greek to English in a Bible, which I'm not saying a physical Bible is obsolete, but when I'm alone in the morning and I'm reading, I can just kind of deep dive in the Logos app, and that's amazing. Um, and we talked about rest at the beginning of this podcast with vacations and such. And for one, there's a lot of technology that's made traveling for vacations. Like I was able to drive hundreds and hundreds of miles in one day and go to the beach with my family. Uh, that's pretty awesome. But then also, I think that there is a certain value in things like video games where you do get just a bit of rest after your fatherly duties, husbandly duties, uh, the other things that you're supposed to do. As long as you keep time for those, I do think there's value in that rest you get from things like video games, even. Or I'm not on social media at all except for the X or Twitter or whatever for this podcast. But I think there can be a lot of redeeming value there. There's plenty of uh, Twitter accounts that I noticed when I signed up that, I mean, they just have straight up good stuff all the time pumping out of there that aid in your walk with Christ. Um, it's just so much easier. And then, like I've talked about ad nauseum at this point, but websites like monergism.com, you get like millions of free books and you can just read. I mean, I drive a truck for a living. I deliver products, so like I'm constantly, literally nonstop. There's podcasts pumping into my brain, and I would not be nearly as far along in my walk if I didn't have that. Uh, maybe if we didn't have technology, I'd be reading more books. So I guess there's that, but I can listen to podcasts a lot faster than I can read books. So I don't know. Maybe it's a wash, but I think it's definitely a positive, a net positive, at least in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it was hugely helpful for me after being kind of introduced to the doctrines of grace, as it were. Yeah, that was one of the first things that I asked some friends were like, "Man, what are some good resources to kind of learn more about this?" And I was immediately turned on to a handful of podcasts that were really good. Some of them, funny enough, have kind of grown out of. Not because I've just grown so much in my maturity or something like that, but just in a this isn't really my speed. I found things that are a little bit more fitting for me.
Yeah, they're just
Um,
not geared towards you anymore.
yeah, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love the occasional episode of something like, Radio Free Geneva. To hear James White going off about, whatever it is he's talking about these days. Um, I'm still so thankful for how his content was used early on in my discovery. Um, enough to where now I'm kind of on the other side of it, looking at like, well, his the way he does things isn't necessarily the way I think that they should be done, but I'm still so grateful for how that helped me along in my early stages. One of the podcasts that I listen to a lot lately, the Reformed Brotherhood. Um, I
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
love Tony and Jesse. They have been so instrumental. Heck, they're a big reason why I agreed to even do this podcast. Because their show is so inspiring to me from a Christian standpoint, from a brotherly relational kind of standpoint. Just the way they can really hammer home a topic in such a way to where it's like I feel like they spoke to me. That's applicable to me, even if we have different convictions on certain topics. It was so helpful and edifying to me. Um, those are kind of my big. I went from to.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're a Christian and you have a heart for God's people and wanting to edify the saints, even if you don't like start a podcast or whatever, technology just does make that so much easier. Like I every single morning, I tend to just do it on weekdays, but every morning I send a verse to my community group at my church, you know, and it's a small thing, but maybe God will use that to keep them rolling, keep the ball rolling. You got things like podcasts where you can just, Tyler and I have both talked about how we're kind of using this to keep ourselves, uh, I don't know exactly how to put it. Keep ourselves in line, I suppose. Keep ourselves. What's the word I'm looking for, Tyler? Help me out here. Keep ourselves, uh, spiritually active. Is that a good way to put it?
That's probably a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, keep ourselves from just getting lazy because it is super easy, uh, just to kind of get lazy with things. But there's lots of uh, things and technology that you can use to your advantage to prevent that. Something, like there's so many little things that help us that are technological. Like we both uh, do soundboard work at our churches. Like that technology makes worship on a Sunday morning a whole lot more approachable, uh, easier to broadcast to all the people in the church. We can talk about whether you should use like electric equipment in worship or not, but start another non-controversial topic, but
Yeah, exactly.
but even acoustic guitars, or pianos or whatever you want to use, technology makes that so much easier to access for everybody in the church, and even your pastor preaching. I mean, most people listening to this, your pastor probably uses a microphone with some speakers so that everybody can hear him. There are some men of the past that were very good at projecting their voice. They're kind of infamous for that, but there's also some that are infamous for not being great at that, and it hurt their ministry. That's not really a problem in 2025. So
Yeah.
there's just
No,
lots of simple stuff like that that we don't even think about that technology helps us with.
yeah, I was gonna say that was my big thing was like regardless of how you feel about musical style in the church or anything like that, the fact is like if your pastor can talk y- through a microphone, that means he can reach, the people in the back who might be hard of hearing, so you like so many things are kind of forgotten to the past. Like, yeah, if you have a struggle hearing, um, maybe you had to hope there was a closer seat so you could hear the pastor. That's not a struggle anymore. We can turn that up as loud. And in fact, I mean, at a previous church, when I was growing up, they actually had some wireless packs to where you could ask the folks at the sound booth and basically get something to put in your ear, and it basically was just like a wireless monitor thing so that people could hear,
Yep, we do that.
if they had a really hard time hearing, they could,
Yep.
wherever you sat, you could still hear the sermon
Yeah.
and be able to participate in that way. And those are the sorts of things where it's like, really kind of where we're driving with a lot of this is the technology itself is not the problem. It's how it's used and or abused. I think that there are many beautiful things, with the way the human mind works and the desire to do things better, more efficiently. Um, but if you're not careful, if you're not keeping that in check, that's where all these problems really come from. We wouldn't have even the controversies of, I think, what sort of music is appropriate in church, even if it weren't for the fact that in some places it's been abused. um but yeah, technology itself is not the problem, and I would argue with anyone who says otherwise. It's a great thing, it's a gift from God. um but just like any of the other gifts he's given us, you can't abuse it, and that's, obviously it's bad.
That's a hot take. Are you gonna be on record saying that?
I didn't really think it was that hot. This is a pretty cold take.
Yeah. Yeah. There
But
can
I stand
be
by it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can associate with you anymore. There can be kind of this view that um it's almost like a oh man, my brain is just not working today. Bear with me, guys. Tyler, help me out again. It's it's a word. So like Roman Catholics back in the day would whip themselves to earn forgiveness. What's this word I'm looking
Mhm.
for?
Oh, I wish you hadn't asked me.
I know. I might have to pull up the
Penance.
Google
You talking about
penance.
penance?
Yeah, there's a more specific word I'm looking for, but that'll work. That'll work for what I'm trying to say. There's this kind of view that almost we should not try to mitigate, like the movement of uh people that are trying to homestead and all these things is great and all, but I feel like there can kind of be this view these days that we should not try to mitigate some of the effects of the fall, kind of like we deserve it, which we do. But I do think it's good to do that. which is again not a hot take, but it is almost like that where people kind of deny all these all this progress that we've made technologically, and most of that is probably for some of the negative side effects that we've talked about, like you know, when you get that constant dopamine hit, it obviously affects you in other aspects of your life. And there's questions around attention span and all kinds of other things with staring at a screen, especially now that a lot of our content is 30 seconds or less, 60 seconds or
Mm,
less that we're
yeah.
scrolling through. But I don't think we should feel bad for trying to avoid some of the consequences of the fall, as long as we recognize that the technology doesn't replace the promises of God.
Mm,
Heaven, no matter what we come up with here on earth, is going to be way better. The technology, so to speak, in heaven is probably going to be far more advanced, but that's not even going to be the best part. The best part is communion with God, and we won't have to deal with working on scrolling less, or working on going on social media less, and the dopamine hit of getting a couple likes on our post and trying to recreate that, or trying to escape through video games for hours on end and get away from life, really reality.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not a thing we're going to have to worry about.
Oh man, you better start preaching, Joe.
I
No,
don't know,
that's
some
good
might
though.
say that that'll preach.
Oh,
If you know, you know. I'm not going to explain what I
if you
just
know,
said.
you know.
If you know,
I,
you
I
know.
happen to. I know that guy. I know that guy.
Yeah.
No. No. It brings up. I think you were spot on. I mean, you kind of brought us to. Yeah, as great as technology is, it's really at the end of the day, it's just trying to alleviate some of the symptoms of the fall. Um, and as good as that can be, it's not without its own downfalls. But then one day, I mean, I heard a preacher talk one time just about how much he was looking forward to finally seeing the Lord face to face, and finally, being in the kingdom and experiencing all of that. And man, it kind of it gave me that feeling of like homesickness, where it's like I know that's my I was created to worship him. I was created for that. And so like there is that longing for that perfect worship in his presence. um but until then, I have to experience this life with whatever sufferings and blessings that come. um but yeah, I do look forward to that day. We mentioned it in our first episode, but Paul's words about how all of the all of the struggles and everything that we face here pale in comparison to the glory that is to come, and not even worthy to be compared. And so, like, as cool as technology is, like, Jesus is much cooler.
Yeah.
To put it very, very simply and crudely. um but yeah, I when you start thinking in terms of how all of this is just to alleviate some symptoms of the fall, I think that's a good perspective to keep, especially if you can use that as a way to kind of keep yourself in check. Because yeah, a lot of technology can be used for escapism, and that's not helpful for you. It's not helpful for anyone around you. um and it's certainly not what God created us for.
Yeah. And uh, man, I talk about it all the time, but I think that really is part of the reason why, especially men today, are less willing to, you know, put more effort into their spiritual lives today. Is there's just so many things that grab our attention in modern day. And I think because of technology, a lot of work is even different these days than it was in the past. And alongside that comes comparison, because you see, millions of more people to compare yourself with, rather than, maybe the people that are in your town. And that kind of leads to the American dream mindset, where you always just want more, more, more. You're never satisfied. And to kind of bring it all back around, we talked about discontentment before. It's really what it is discontentment. And uh, we were talking about just the beauty of nature before, but the beauty of the life we have apart from all those escapes, whether it is through our work or just through our relationships, those are really easy to escape through technology. And I think the Christian just needs to be mindful of those things. Just be aware of how much screen time you're getting in a day. I say, as I stare at a screen. I mean, I am the chief among sinners on this, but it is something that I think we need to be intentional about, because it's so easy to just not even think about.
Mm,
It's
amen.
it's not a replacement, Tyler.
It's not. It's not. But I say all that to say God is good.
Man, you're full
And
of hot takes today.
God is very good. He has blessed us, especially those of us that live in America. Um, we have such a blessing of being able to openly worship, to freely and regularly go to church on the Lord's Day. Um, we have, many friends that we can talk about this stuff in public with. Um, and I mean, shoot, we got some gorgeous state parks all throughout the state, or the country rather. Um, and so if you're gonna be all in on technology, like all of us are, um, let's try to use that for good, to steer us back to the Lord, to help us appreciate maybe His creation, uh, to help us appreciate our salvation, because ultimately all of this stuff that happens, in our life, matters and has meaning. And if you're distracting yourself away, if you're trying to escape into a reality that just isn't reality, um, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Um, so instead, let's get all our focus shifted back onto the things that matter. Our church, our families, um, obviously our daily duty to die to self, um, um, and to worship Christ, as He should be worshipped. Um, so technology is not bad. Technology is, dare I say, good, um, so long as we use it well.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're really saying is that people should touch grass.
People should touch grass. Should definitely touch some grass.
Yeah.
Preferably the grass outside of your church.
Yeah. Yeah. Walk on
And with
that
your
grass
family
every week.
every
Yeah, I
week.
think I think that is really the key, though, is whether we realize it or not, that kind of blending of reality and the virtual. And
Mm.
that's only going to become easier. So we need to be ahead of the game with our children. I'm not saying virtual. Wow, I said that weird. Virtual reality is inherently evil. but it's going to be a lot easier to blend the virtual and the real when our kids are our age. And, we talked a lot about the importance of family worship last episode. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead and go back and give a listen. We had a
Use your
great guest on.
technology and go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a great guest on, Pete, and we talked about family worship. And we need to get ahead of those things and uh, just have them be aware of the dangers of technology. Uh, you know, uh, a lot of parents in my church, myself included, aren't going to be giving their children phones until much later than most worldly people would give their kids phones. And that's great. But I think we also need to make sure they're aware of why those things are. Um, that there are dangers in these things. We need to be uh, uh, just kind of ahead of the ball on that, because it's only going to get, I'm not going to say worse, but there's going to be more and more technology, and these things are going to be a lot easier to abuse.
Definitely, definitely. And realistically, if we can't get our own technological habits under control, how in the world can we, direct our children and
Yeah.
how to use that properly? So, well, Joe, I think we're kind of getting to the end of our little episode here. And in fact, speaking of technology, I have I have a dishwasher I need to get unloaded. So,
Isn't that a great
again,
technology?
one of those wonderful gifts. Truly, truly. But yeah, I this is going to be one of those where I'm going to leave this and still be thinking on it for a while, because there really is so much good, and really the bad comes from the misuse of the gift. Much like any of our other problems in this world, there so many gifts that we're given, but when we use them improperly, we find ourselves in lots of trouble. So, but yeah, I think we're
I think we
we're in a
did.
good spot with that. I think we've kind of probably talked about it as much as we really can without just rehashing all of our points all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about CPUs in the gospel? How those
Oh
correlate?
gosh, I don't know that I have anything more for that.
Well, speaking of technology, if you are currently listening to this, we would greatly appreciate it if you shared with your friends, maybe some people that you think would benefit from it, and leave us a rating wherever you listen. Lots of apps, lots of different apps give you the ability to leave a rating. I think Apple Podcasts is probably the most has the most impact, but even Pocket Casts or wherever you listen, just go ahead and give us a rating, because every single mode that people use to listen to this podcast, there's more than one. There's more than one that use that mode, so it could be helpful for others. But
You can
yeah, other
also
than
check
that,
us out on Twitter, or
yeah.
excuse me, it's not Twitter anymore. I don't know that I'm ever going to get past that.
Yeah, they know what you're talking
We're
about.
on X now. So if you go check us out at Over Theologizing, you can totally just leave us a comment there, and we will see it. We will read it. Um, so yeah, hit us up.
By the way, it is at Over Theologizer.
Oh,
Over Theologizing was taken, so I had to go at Over
oh no.
Theologizer. But it does say it is Over Theologizing, but it is at Over Theologizer.
I gotcha. All right.
Also,
Well, yeah,
though,
don't listen to me. Listen to Joe.
there is an email, overtheologizing@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions, maybe even guest suggestions or topic suggestions, things you want us to talk about, maybe any feedback you have for us, you can let us know there. I do check that email. So yeah. Other
All
than
right.
that,
Well,
Tyler, enjoy your camping trip. have fun with your family, and get away from technology.
Well, some of it.
To a point, yeah.
Some of it. Joe, I appreciate your company as always. And to that, I say goodbye, sir.
See you guys.